It was supposed to be a peaceful summer hike. Emily Carter, 22 years old, full of life, set off alone into Grand Teton National Park. She messaged her mom from the trailhead. "I'll check in tonight." She never did. Rangers searched for weeks. They found her car. They found her tent untouched. Her boots were neatly outside. Her bag was still zipped. But Emily? Gone. No blood. No signs of a fall. No animal tracks. It was like she had just disappeared. Then, 11 months later, something strange happened. A park ranger, scanning a cliff with binoculars, saw something inside a giant eagle's nest at first. He thought it was trash, but then he froze. His voice over the radio. "You're not gonna believe this. We've got a body in the nest." When rescue teams climbed up and looked inside, what they found didn't just solve the case. It revealed a secret no one was ready for. Emily Carter sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee as her mom folded laundry nearby. Her dad leaned against the wall, arms crossed, looking uneasy. "I just need this trip," Emily said. "It's only 4 days. I'll be careful. I promise." She had just finished her second year of college. The last few months had been rough. Stress, a bad breakup, and nonstop studying. She needed space. Time to breathe. "It's still not safe," her mom said softly. "Why alone?" Emily smiled. "Because I know what I'm doing. I've hiked before. I'll stay on the trails. I'll check in every night." Her dad didn't answer. He just looked at her, then looked away. Emily opened her laptop and showed them the trail map. "I'm starting here. Packing here. Camp here. I'll text when I stop each night." She was calm, confident. They weren't. Her mom gave in first. "Okay," she whispered. "But you check in. Every single night." Emily nodded. "Every night." "I promise." It would be the last promise she ever made to them. Emily packed her bag like a pro. Food, water filter, first aid kit, raincoat, knife, batteries, flashlight, notebook, bear spray. She laid it all out like puzzle pieces on the floor, checking each item twice. Then she folded up the hand-drawn map her dad made for her. She smiled. It was dorky, but sweet. Her phone was fully charged. She added a power bank, just in case. She zipped up the bag, looked around her bedroom one last time, and took a deep breath. Downstairs, her mom waited at the door. "Are you sure you're ready?" Emily nodded. Her mom pulled her into a long hug. "I don't like this, but I love you. I'll be back before you know it," Emily whispered. She stepped outside, tossed her pack in the trunk, and waved. Then she locked the front door, not knowing it would never open for her again. The sun was shining when Emily arrived at the trailhead. It was quiet, peaceful, just birds and wind. She pulled on her backpack, adjusted the straps, and looked out at the trees ahead. The air smelled like pine and cold earth. This was her favorite kind of silence. Before starting, she turned her phone around and snapped a selfie. She was smiling, hair tied up, skin glowing from the drive. She looked happy, fully alive. She texted it to her mom. "Just started. All good." Then she turned off data to save battery and tucked the phone into her jacket pocket. The last photo, the last text, the last smile anyone would see. Then Emily faced the woods, took her first step onto the trail, and vanished into the trees. The trail was narrow and lined with tall pines. Emily hiked with steady steps, snapping photos along the way. A deer crossed ahead of her. She smiled. The forest felt alive, but safe. She passed a couple heading back down. They waved. She waved back. No words. Just passing strangers. By late afternoon, the sun dipped behind the peaks. The forest darkened fast. Emily found a small clearing just off the main path. She set up her tent, ate a snack, and pulled out her notebook. She wrote, "Day 1. Perfect weather. No one around. Peaceful. Just what I needed. As night fell, she zipped up her tent and crawled into her sleeping bag. She checked her phone. No signal. Still, she wrote a text to her mom. Camping now. Love you. It didn't send. She closed her eyes. That was the last known moment of Emily Carter's life. After that night, her phone was never used again. No texts, no calls, no GPS pings. She had vanished into the forest, and now no one knew where she was. By morning, Emily's mom checked her phone before even getting out of bed. No message. She told herself it was probably bad signal. Maybe Emily forgot. Maybe she fell asleep early. But by lunchtime, the worry was growing. Still no text. Still nothing. She reread Emily's last message. Camping now. Love you. It still showed not delivered. She called Emily's phone. Straight to voicemail. An hour later, she tried again and again. Still nothing. She called Emily's dad. Have you heard from her? No, he said quietly. Not since the photo. The hours dragged on. Evening came. Then night. Now a full 24 hours had passed without a word. Emily had promised she'd check in every single night. Her mom sat on the couch, phone in hand, heart racing. She kept glancing at the door, as if Emily might walk in at any second. But she didn't. Something was wrong. By the next morning, Emily's parents couldn't wait any longer. Her mom picked up the phone and called. Grand Teton National Park's ranger station. My daughter was hiking alone, she said. She didn't check in last night or the night before. The ranger asked questions. Name, age, description, route. When she last MESSAGE. The ranger's voice grew serious. We're dispatching a team right now. Emily was now officially a missing person. Her parents felt frozen, numb, like they were in someone else's life. Friends showed up. Calls were made to hospitals, airports, anyone. Nobody had seen her. Nobody had heard from her. By sunset, there were helicopters in the air and boots on the ground. The search for Emily had begun. The first place the rangers checked was the trailhead. And there it was, Emily's car, parked in the same spot she had sent in her photo. Locked, untouched. Inside, her food bag was still in the back seat. Water bottles, a book, her hiking sandals. Everything she didn't take into the woods. Her car wasn't hidden. It wasn't moved. It was right where she said it would be. But Emily wasn't. There were no footprints nearby. No phone. No note. No broken branches. Just her empty car and a chilling silence around it. To the rangers, this didn't look like a person who got lost. It looked like a person who never came back. By the second day, the sky above Grand Teton buzzed with helicopters. Search and rescue teams moved fast. Rangers, police, and volunteers joined in. Everyone knew time was running out. Emily had already been missing for over 36 hours. From above, crews scanned thick forests, rocky trails, and sharp cliff edges. They flew low, looking for bright colors, a moving figure, or even scattered gear. Down below, searchers walked in lines through the trees. Some shouted her name. Others checked behind rocks and logs. No one found anything. The park was huge, over 300,000 acres. And Emily was just one person, alone. The weather was clear. No signs of a fall. No screams were heard. No one had reported anything strange. It was like she had walked into the woods and vanished. The rescue leader told reporters, "We're covering as much ground as we can, as quickly as possible." But so far, not a single clue had turned up. Not one. Dogs were brought in next. Handlers let them sniff one of Emily's shirts from home. The dogs caught the scent quickly and started pulling toward the trailhead. For a moment, hope returned. The dogs followed the path deeper into the woods. Searchers stayed quiet, letting the dogs lead. Then, suddenly, They stopped. The trail just ended. The dog circled, sniffed. One sat down. The scent was gone, like it had been cut off. No sign of her going further. No sign of her turning back. The ranger in charge said, "That's not normal." Something interrupted the trail. But they didn't know what. No blood. No tracks. No broken branches. Just a missing girl. And dogs that couldn't find where she'd gone. Searchers returned to the trailhead. Emily's car was still sitting in the same spot. They looked inside. Her food bag was untouched. Her driver's license was in the glove box. Even a bottle of her favorite soda sat in the cup holder. Warm now. Nothing looked stolen. Nothing looked out of place. The keys were gone, which meant she locked it herself. It was the kind of scene that felt too normal. One ranger said, "It doesn't look like someone who planned to run away. She planned to come back." They took photos, logged everything, and towed the car for further checks. It gave them no answers. Just more questions. 3 days into the search, a ranger spotted something through the trees. A flash of green fabric. It was a tent. They rushed over. It was Emily's. Her name was stitched inside the flap. It was fully set up, just like she'd planned. The zipper wasn't torn. Nothing was broken. Outside the tent, her hiking boots were sitting side by side, like she had just taken them off. Inside, her sleeping bag was rolled neatly. Her notebook sat on top of it. So did her camera. No blood. No signs of a struggle. No damage from animals. It was like she had walked out and never came back. They called for backup. Crime scene tape went up. Photos were taken. But there was nothing to collect. No clues. No footprints. No signs of panic. Just a quiet tent. And a missing girl. One ranger whispered, "It's like she vanished into thin air." A ranger crouched outside Emily's tent, staring at her boots. They were lined up perfectly, not kicked off, not scattered. Just placed side by side, facing the flap. Still clean. Barely any dirt. He slowly unzipped the tent. Inside, it was quiet. Still, nothing looked touched. Her sleeping bag was rolled and tucked. On top of it was her notebook. Pages open, words neatly written. Next to it sat her camera, battery still full. It looked like she had just stepped out to stretch her legs and forgot to come back. But no one found any sign she ever returned to the tent that night. No food wrappers, no used water bottle, no footprints leading away. Just a pair of boots. And the heavy silence of a girl who had simply disappeared. The search team stood in a circle around the tent, quietly shaking their heads. It made no sense. Everything was peaceful. Too peaceful. There were no drag marks, no signs of animals, no broken branches, no torn fabric. No blood. No hair. No struggle. It was as if she had unzipped the tent, stepped out, and vanished into thin air. One ranger said it out loud. "It's like she evaporated." The others didn't argue. Her campsite wasn't rushed. She didn't look scared. She hadn't packed up. Whatever happened, it wasn't planned. And it didn't leave a trace. One team member wrote in his report, "This isn't a normal missing hiker case." And from that moment on, the search turned from rescue to recovery. As the days dragged on, search teams slowed. The chances of finding Emily alive were slipping away, but the mystery only grew louder. Back at Ranger HQ, hushed conversations started. If it wasn't an accident? One said, what else could it be? A few thought maybe she'd gotten lost, wandered too far, and fallen. But her gear was untouched. Her boots were off. Her journal was calm. That didn't add up. Others whispered about animals. A bear? A mountain lion? But nothing was disturbed. No claw marks. No blood. That's when the darker theories started. What if she wasn't alone out there? Some hikers said they'd seen strange, People on back trails, off-grid types, survivalists, campers who didn't want to be found. Online forums lit up. Reddit threads exploded. Trail stalker. Was she followed? Someone lured her away? Emily's family tried to stay focused on the search. But even they were starting to wonder, what if this wasn't nature? What if it was someone? After 3 weeks, the search crews began packing up. Helicopters that once circled every hour now sat still. Boots that trampled the trails were gone. Radios went silent. The mountain had gone quiet again. The weather was changing. Cold wind moved in fast. Snow started to fall, first in small patches, then heavy and deep. Every trail was buried. Every clue disappeared under white. For the first time, Grand Teton looked like it did before Emily ever arrived. Peaceful, beautiful, empty. But something dark had happened here. The tent was removed. The area cleared. Rangers took photos, bagged her belongings, and left. The case was now classified as a cold missing persons file. Emily's family had no answers, no body, no signs of a fall or attack. Just silence. One ranger said, "Nature hides everything if you give it time." And time was all the mountain had now. Emily Carter was gone, and no one had a clue where she went. While officials gave up, Emily's parents didn't. They hired private search teams, people who had worked on tough missing hiker cases before. They brought in special dogs, drones with heat sensors, and even motion cameras hidden in the trees. Nothing worked. They paid a psychic. Then another. Then one more. One said she saw water. Another said Emily was still alive. Another said she was under rocks. None of it helped. The family printed new flyers and handed them out to every camper, hiker, and ranger in the park. Most people were kind. Some just shook their heads. Her mom cried every night. Her dad stopped talking much at all. They promised they wouldn't stop until they found their daughter. But weeks turned to months, and the forest stayed silent. Emily's story spread like wildfire online. It started with a single post on Reddit, then a video on YouTube, then local news picked it up. Within weeks, her name was everywhere. Girl vanishes in Grand Teton. No clues, no body. People across the world became obsessed. Some tried to solve the case themselves. They used Google Maps to trace her route. They looked at elevation data, bear sightings, and weather patterns. Others said they saw her. A gas station in Utah, a rest stop in Idaho, a blurry photo from a hiking group in Montana. But none of it was real. The internet meant well, but it only made things worse. It filled the story with noise. Too many fake leads. Too many wild theories. Still, Emily's family watched it all, hoping someone, somewhere, might actually be right. As the online community grew, so did the theories. Some believed Emily had been taken by a mountain lion. The park had cougars, and they were dangerous, but rare. And nothing in her tent showed signs of an attack. No blood, no claw marks, nothing broken. Others thought she'd fallen off a cliff or into a hidden crevice. But search teams had scanned those areas, even with helicopters. No trace. And again, her boots were off. Her gear was untouched. So a third theory started to rise. What if it wasn't nature? What if it was a person? People began asking, was someone watching her? Did she meet someone on the trail? Was she stalked? A few hikers reported odd encounters weeks earlier. A man who stared too long, walked too close, didn't say a word. None of them could describe him well. Just off. Could someone have followed Emily? Could someone have lured her into the trees? Theories became fear, and fear turned into obsession. But no one knew the truth. Not yet. As theories kept growing online, the real world caught on too. News stations picked up Emily's case. Local first, then national, then international. They ran her smiling trailhead. Photo beside bold headlines. Hiker vanishes without a trace. No clues, no body, just questions. The peaceful image of Grand Teton changed. It wasn't just a hiking destination anymore. It was the place that swallowed Emily Carter. Tourists still visited, but many were drawn by the mystery, not the mountains. Some even walked her trail, hoping to feel something. Emily's parents did every interview they could. TV, podcasts, newspapers. They begged for new tips. Any lead. But the story always ended the same way. She went in. She never came out. The mountain was no longer just beautiful. It was haunted by a girl. No one could find 11 months after Emily vanished. A man named Aaron Wallace was hiking a back trail near the edge of a steep cliff. He was off the main path, looking for rocks to photograph. That's when he saw something strange in the dirt. Just under a bush. It wasn't trash. It wasn't metal from a tent. It was a watch. He picked it up, brushed it off. It was a women's hiking watch. The kind built to last. Waterproof, shockproof, sturdy. Still ticking. And on the back, engraved in tiny letters, were 2 words. Love, Mom. Aaron didn't know what he'd found. Not yet. But something about it felt wrong. Out of place. Like it didn't belong here. He hiked back to the ranger station and handed it over. Later that night, a ranger called Emily's mother. "Ma'am," he said gently, "we may have something." Her mom asked one thing. "Is it broken?" The ranger paused. "No, it's still working." Rangers pulled out the old maps. They traced Emily's campsite, then marked the spot where the watch was found. It didn't make sense. The distance between them? 10 miles. Through thick forest. Over rough ground. Across no marked trail. And near a cliff. One that dropped hundreds of feet. But there were no signs of a fall. No backpack. No bones. No clothes. Nothing else. Just the watch. Clean. Working. Left in plain sight. As if placed there on purpose. No. Footprints. No claw marks. No drag trails. Just untouched dirt and a single object. Sitting still after nearly a year, Rangers stared at the map and said what everyone was thinking. How did it get there? Was it moved by water? Dropped from above? Or did someone carry it and leave it behind? For the first time in months, the mystery wasn't cold anymore. It was wide open again. On a warm afternoon in late May, Park Ranger Tom Grayson was scanning the cliffs near the eastern ridge of Grand Teton. He had been with the park for over 12 years. He knew the area well. But what caught his attention today was something he hadn't noticed before. A massive eagle's nest. Perched near the top of a sharp rock-faced. It was too high for most people to see. Almost hidden in the shadows. Tom lifted his binoculars and adjusted the focus. The nest was huge, almost the size of a bathtub, packed with twigs, feathers, and debris. Golden eagles use these high points to keep their young safe. It was rare to see inside one this closely. Tom scanned the nest slowly. At first, nothing unusual. Just branches. Some bones, probably rabbit or fish. But then, something else. Something that didn't belong. His eyes narrowed. He couldn't be sure, but there was something white, smooth, tucked in the corner of the nest. He lowered the binoculars, blinked, then looked again. This wasn't just wildlife anymore. Something was very wrong. Tom adjusted the binoculars again, hands tightening. The white object inside the nest didn't look like bone from an animal. It was too round, too clean. He shifted position to get a better view, squinting into the sun. From this angle, it almost looked human. A chill ran down his spine. He zoomed in tighter. There were feathers around it, but nothing covering it completely. The light hit just right, and he saw it clearly now. It was smooth, round, and about the size of a grapefruit. and it wasn't shaped like any rock or egg. It looked like the top of a skull. He pulled the binoculars down, heart now pounding in his chest. "No way," he whispered. The nest was nearly 100 feet above the ground. How could anyone, end up inside it? Tom took a deep breath, raised his radio, and made the call. Tom didn't wait. He radioed the ranger base. "This is Grayson. I've got something strange in the eagle's nest off Cliffside Point. Might be human remains." The line went quiet. Then, "Say again?" "I need someone out here. And I need a drone. Now." Within hours, a small team arrived with a camera drone. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows over the rocks. They had to work fast. The drone lifted into the air, spinning gently as it hovered toward the nest. Everyone crowded around the monitor as the camera closed in. The image sharpened. The white shape was now clearly visible, not just a skull, but long, tangled hair nearby. Fabric, torn and some bleached, and something else. Hanging over a stick in the nest, a necklace. The camera zoomed. They paused the frame. One ranger whispered, "It has a name on it." The necklace was small, silver, and dirty, but still readable. It had one word on it: "Call on Emily." No one spoke for a few seconds. Then the lead ranger said quietly, "Get forensics. This just became a crime scene." The drone hovered closer, capturing every detail. Beside the skull were bone fragments, ribs, part of a jaw, and a single shoe that matched the one Emily's mom had described months ago. It had pink laces. Torn clothing hung from the edges of the nest, tangled in sticks. They also spotted something small and black near the back, a plastic object, cracked and dirty. Possibly a memory card. It was stuck between two branches. The team quickly marked GPS coordinates and backed away. No one dared climb up yet. It was too dangerous. The nest had to be preserved for evidence. Ranger Tom stood back and looked up at the cliff. 11 months, he said. He couldn't believe it. Emily hadn't been buried. She'd been above them the whole time, in the sky. The necklace swayed slightly in the wind, caught on a twig near the edge of the nest. A ranger zoomed in the drone camera again, confirming what they'd already seen. The tag said, Emily. There was no last name. No dates, just that one word. It was small, worn from the weather, and a little bent. But it was enough. That one name flipped everything upside down. What had once been a cold case, a missing hiker with no leads, was now something else entirely. Emily Carter had been found, but not where anyone expected, and not in any way that made sense. The eagle's nest wasn't just holding twigs and feathers. It was holding a mystery that had somehow gotten even deeper. This wasn't closure yet. This was only the beginning of more questions. By the next morning, the ridge near the nest was shut down. Park rangers set up barriers and signs. No hikers allowed. No press. No drones. The area became a restricted crime scene. Only select investigators were allowed in, and even they couldn't reach the nest right away. It was too high, too unstable. They needed climbing gear, wind protection, and camera crews ready to document every move. They brought in wildlife experts, too, to make sure no chicks were still in the nest and that no harm would come to the eagles. Everything had to be perfect. They couldn't risk destroying any evidence. Reporters started calling non-stop. Helicopters circled nearby, blocked from getting too close. Emily's name was back in the headlines. But this time, it wasn't just a story of someone lost. It was a case of someone found in a place no one should ever be. As the news broke, one question took over every headline, every social media post, and every late-night podcast. How did a human end up in an eagle's nest? The nest was more than 90 feet above the ground, on a cliff no normal person could reach without ropes and training. The theories exploded fast. Some believed Emily had fallen off the cliff and her body somehow landed in the nest. But there were no signs of impact, no broken branches below, no torn-up ground. Others thought maybe animals had moved her. But how would a wild animal carry parts of a body that far and that high without leaving any trace? The strangest theory? Someone had placed her there. A person. A killer. Someone who knew that hiding a body in the sky meant no one would ever look up. Even experienced rangers had no answers. One investigator said, "I've seen strange cases in these woods, but never anything like this." Emily's story had started with a quiet hike. Now it had become something much, much darker. 3 days after the discovery, a special recovery team arrived. These weren't just regular rangers. They were expert climbers trained for rescue and recovery on steep, dangerous cliffs. They carried ropes, harnesses, helmets, and high-definition cameras. Their mission: reach the eagle's nest without disturbing anything. The climb began early in the morning. The cliff face was cold and rough, the wind sharp and fast. One wrong step, and it was a long fall. Each climber moved slowly, checking holds, anchoring ropes, and staying in constant radio contact. Below them, the rest of the team watched in silence. As they neared the top, the nest came into full view. It was even bigger up close, thick with sticks, feathers, and bones. Some were clearly animal remains. Others weren't. The lead climber called it in. "We've reached the nest. There are human remains, multiple items, requesting full documentation." The truth was finally within reach, but it was about to get stranger. Inside the nest, the climbers worked slowly. They used gloved hands and soft brushes to clear debris. Every feather, every stick, every bone was photographed and bagged. The smell was faint, weathered and dry, but unmistakable. Near the center of the nest, they found what they feared: small bones. A jaw fragment, pieces of rib, a cracked skull with long hair still tangled through it. There was no doubt these were human remains. Next to the bones were scraps of fabric, torn pieces of hiking clothes, pink, gray, sun-dash bleached. And then something unexpected. One of the climbers spotted a small black object tucked between two thick branches. It was square, plastic, and dirty. At first, they thought it was just trash, but when they pulled it out, they saw it clearly. It was a memory card. Weather damaged, bent at the edge, but still intact. One climber said it must have fallen out of a camera. Another said, or someone put it there. They placed it in a sealed bag, labeled it, and passed it down the line. Whatever was on it might be the only thing Emily left behind. Back at the lab, the necklace from the nest was examined under a microscope. It was thin and silver, worn down from sun and rain. But it hadn't rusted, and the engraving was still visible. Emily. Forensics checked old photos from the Carter family. In several of them, Emily was wearing that same necklace, including the selfie she took at the trailhead. There was no doubt now. The remains in the eagle's nest belonged to her. The call to her parents came that evening. Emily's mom answered. The voice on the other end was calm, but serious. "It's her," the woman said softly. There was silence. Then sobbing. Her dad didn't say a word. He just sat down and stared at the photo on their wall. After nearly a year of not knowing. Now, they knew. But how she got there, that was still a mystery. A few days later, experts began studying the bones in detail. Some marks were clear, small scratches likely made by birds or animals. That wasn't unusual. The nest had been exposed for nearly a year, but other marks looked different. One rib had deep, straight grooves, not from weather or beaks. The skull had two faint indents, evenly spaced. The forensic team made no final call yet. They couldn't say it was an attack. But they also couldn't rule out something else. A tool? A person? A struggle? They logged every mark, every oddity. Nothing was ignored. The lead examiner wrote, "Some damage is consistent with scavengers. Other damage is inconsistent with natural causes." Emily had clearly died before ending up in that nest. But how she died, and who, if anyone, was responsible, remained the biggest question of all. The memory card found in the eagle's nest was rushed to a forensic tech lab. At first, it looked hopeless. Dirt, moisture, and exposure had done serious damage. The outer shell was cracked, and part of the chip had warped. Still, the technicians tried. They cleaned it carefully, then inserted it into a recovery reader. A few folders popped up. Most were corrupted, but 5 video files survived. The first one opened without sound, showing trees and Emily's feet as she hiked. Normal. The second one was different. Emily sat inside her tent. Her face was close to the camera. She looked calm, but tired. The third one had sound. She was whispering. And the fourth made everyone in the room stop breathing. Emily looked scared. Her voice was shaking. She kept glancing at the flap of her tent. Then she leaned in, almost too close to the lens, and whispered, "I think someone's following me." The full video was just under 2 minutes long. Emily sat inside her tent. It was dim, probably early evening. Her sleeping bag was behind her. The boots were still outside. It was likely filmed the same night she vanished. She held the camera close and spoke in a low, frightened voice. "I don't want to freak out, but I think someone's out there." She swallowed, glancing over her shoulder. "I saw a guy. Twice. Not close. Just watching from the trail. He didn't wave. Didn't say anything. Just stood there." She took a shaky breath. I told myself. It was nothing. Maybe just another hiker. Her eyes darted toward the zipper. But just now, I heard something. Branches. Footsteps. I called out, but no one answered. She tried to laugh. It didn't sound real. Maybe I'm just tired. She whispered, "But I'm gonna pack up early in the morning and leave. I don't feel safe." Then she paused, looked straight into the camera. "If something happens, this is proof." The screen went black. Investigators reviewed the video again and again. They slowed it down, brightened the image, enhanced every frame. That's when they saw a dot just behind Emily's left shoulder. Through the mesh window of the tent was a shape, faint, still, almost missed. It wasn't a tree. It wasn't part of the tent. It was a man, tall, standing between the trees. Not moving, not waving, just watching. They zoomed in, frame by frame. The figure had no clear face, no color, just a dark outline. But it was there. The timestamp showed this. Was filmed the night before her phone stopped pinging. Rangers froze the image and printed it. The press didn't get it. The public didn't see it. But everyone on the team understood what they were looking at. This wasn't an accident. Emily Carter had a reason to be afraid. And someone out there had been watching her. The FBI took over the investigation once the video was recovered. Their tech team started by enhancing the blurry figure in the tent video. They used high-end software to brighten the background, sharpen outlines, and adjust contrast frame by frame. At first, it was just a dark shape. But then, details started to appear. The figure wasn't just a shadow. It was a man. He wore a hat, possibly a beanie or hood. He had a full backpack and heavy boots. He was standing stiff, not moving, like he was watching. Waiting. One agent said, "He's just outside the tent window." That's no coincidence. The man wasn't close enough to be clear, but he wasn't far either. He had been tracking her, standing in the trees, not saying a word. The footage didn't show a face, but it showed enough. Emily wasn't alone that night, and now they had a lead. When rangers saw the enhanced footage, one of them leaned in close. "I've seen that jacket before," he said. "The bulky figure in the video, the backpack, the way he stood. It reminded them of someone. A man who had been spotted in the area before. Not a tourist. Not a regular hiker. This man lived nearby, off-grid. In the woods. He rarely spoke. Didn't visit ranger stations. But hikers had reported him a few times. Always alone. Always watching. He carried a heavy green pack and wore layers, even in warm weather. He didn't bother anyone directly. But something about him always felt off. Now, the still frame from Emily's video looked a lot like him. Too close to ignore. The rangers told the FBI. "We think we know who that is." The man's name was Caleb Rhodes. He lived in the mountains for years in a homemade cabin deep in the woods. No phone, no electricity, no car. Rangers had warned him many times for being too close to trails, too close to campers, too close to solo hikers. He never broke any laws, never touched anyone, but he made people uncomfortable. Some hikers said he followed them from a distance, watched from trees, never smiled, never spoke. One woman filed a complaint. Said she saw him standing outside her campsite late at night. When rangers went to talk to him, he denied everything. They let him go. There wasn't enough evidence. Now, with the video and the body, everything had changed. The warnings weren't just rumors anymore. They were missed chances, with a warrant in hand. Police and FBI agents made their way to Caleb's remote cabin. It wasn't easy to reach. They had to hike for miles off trail. No roads, no signs. The cabin was small, made from scrap wood and metal. It blended into the trees. No smoke, no sound. They entered carefully, guns drawn. The inside was cluttered. Canned food, old clothes, animal bones, and paper maps stuck to the walls. They searched everything. Then, under a pile of blankets in a corner, they found something chilling. A small notebook. It had Emily's name written on the inside cover. Next to it was a ripped map with her trail route, circled in red ink. And under the floorboards, they found her broken phone. It had no battery, no SIM card. But the lock screen still showed her last photo. Emily, smiling at the trailhead. Agents looked around the dark, filthy cabin. This wasn't just a hiding place. It was a trap. After finding Emily's notebook and broken phone in Caleb's cabin, a nationwide alert was issued. He wasn't at the cabin anymore. But 2 days later, a tip came in. A man matching Caleb's description had been seen at a bus station in Idaho Falls, wearing a hoodie, carrying a green backpack. Plainclothes officers moved in quietly. They waited until he stepped outside to smoke. Then, without drawing attention, they surrounded him. He didn't fight. He didn't run. He didn't even ask why. He just raised his hands and said, "You're here for the girl." They cuffed him and read his rights. The officer closest to him said later, he wasn't scared. He was calm, like he knew this day was coming. Caleb didn't stay silent long. During the second hour of questioning, he broke. He leaned forward and spoke in a low, flat voice. "I saw her walking the trail alone," he said. "She looked like she didn't belong out there." He admitted he watched her for 3 days, stayed hidden, followed her, waited. He said he waited until just after dark, when she was alone in her tent. "She never saw me coming." He didn't give many details about the attack, only that he dragged her body away from the campsite, deeper into the woods, and covered her with branches. He took her phone, her notebook, and her necklace, then disappeared back into the forest. He didn't return to the body. Months later, he heard that animals had moved remains near a cliff, but he never knew what really happened. "I didn't put her in that nest," he said. "That was nature." Even the FBI agents were stunned. A murder solved by an eagle? It was unthinkable, but it had happened. And now, he had admitted everything. With Caleb's confession, investigators finally saw the full picture. Emily had been attacked late at night, likely within hours of filming that final video. Caleb dragged her body about half a mile from her tent and buried it under loose branches, hoping it would stay hidden. It didn't. Over the next few months, animals found it. Scavengers scattered parts. Eventually, a golden eagle, known to build high nests near the cliffs, took bones, clothing, and even small objects like her necklace and camera card. It carried them into the sky. The eagle's nest unknowingly became the final witness. 11 months later, it gave up the secret. A trail of twigs, bones, and one video had led them to the truth, and the mystery of Emily Carter was finally solved. 3 weeks after the trial began, Emily's family made the trip to Grand Teton one last time. They didn't come for photos. They didn't come for the press. They came for her. With the help of park rangers, they hiked to the base of the cliff, the one where her remains had been found high. In that eagle's nest, it was quiet. The wind moved gently through the trees. No talking, just footsteps and soft sobs. Her mom carried a bouquet of wildflowers. Her dad brought a framed photo, the trailhead selfie Emily had sent that last day. They placed both at the base of the cliff. Beside it, they added a small wooden sign that read, "You were brave. You were loved. You are not forgotten." Everyone stood in silence. Tears fell. Then her mother whispered, "We found you, baby. We found you." For the first time in 11 months, they had peace. Not because it was over, but because they finally knew the truth. After the memorial, Emily's parents asked to meet the man who had spotted her skull. Ranger Tom Grayson didn't expect the hug that came next. Emily's mom grabbed him tightly. Her dad shook his hand like they had known each other forever. "You gave us answers," her mom said, through tears. "You gave us our daughter back." Tom nodded, struggling to speak. He had searched the park for years, seen missing hikers come and go, some never found. But this case had haunted him more than any other. The photo, the necklace, the video. And the way that Eagle's Nest had held a secret no one could have imagined. Tom didn't want attention. He didn't want a medal. But that moment, standing with the parents he'd unknowingly helped, stayed with him forever. Sometimes, solving a mystery doesn't just take skill. It takes someone who refuses to stop looking. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, lawyers, strangers, and sitting quietly in the back, Emily's family. At the front, the man who stalked her sat still. No handcuffs, no emotion. He didn't look at anyone. As evidence was presented, the courtroom stayed silent. The jury heard about the map, the phone, the nest, the memory card. Then they played the video, the one Emily filmed inside her tent. Her voice filled the room. "I think someone's following me." Gasps, tears, and then silence again. Her words weren't loud, but they cut through everything. Even the judge paused. This wasn't just evidence. It was a voice from the grave, telling them exactly what happened and exactly who did it. The jury didn't take long. After just 4 hours, they returned with their verdict. Guilty. Guilty of murder. Guilty of kidnapping. Guilty of stalking. When the judge read the sentence, the courtroom stayed frozen. "You will spend the rest of your life in prison. You will never see freedom again." Emily's parents held hands. They didn't cheer. They didn't cry. They just nodded. Justice had finally come. The man showed no emotion, no regret. He was let out in silence, never looking back. Outside, cameras rolled. Headlines lit up. "Killer caught after Eagle Nest discovery." But for Emily's family, this wasn't about headlines. It was about peace. Their daughter hadn't vanished. She hadn't just disappeared into the woods. She had been found. Her voice had been heard. And the man who hurt her would never hurt anyone else again. After the trial, Emily's parents logged into her old blog account. She had been writing about her hiking journey, sharing thoughts, photos, and safety tips for solo travelers. There was one post sitting in drafts. It was dated the night before she vanished. The title was Bravery versus Fear. In it, Emily wrote, "Sometimes being alone is peaceful. Sometimes it's not. But I still believe the trail teaches you things, even when it's scary. I'm not sure how this hike ends, but I'm glad I came." Her family decided to publish it. They didn't change a word. Thousands read it. Some cried. Some left comments saying they now carried whistles or hiked with friends. Emily's final words weren't about danger. They were about courage. And that's how she was remembered, not just for what happened to her, but for how she faced the unknown. The story of Emily's case spread worldwide. News channels called it bizarre. True crime shows called it chilling. One documentary called The Nest the highest clue ever found. An eagle, doing what eagles do, had unknowingly helped crack a human mystery. Nest cams were reviewed. Biologists talked about eagle behavior, but no one could explain how such a strange discovery had led to justice. Still, it had without the eagle building that nest on that cliff, without the ranger spotting the skull from 80 feet away, the truth might have stayed buried forever. Now, the nest sat empty again, just another part of the wild. But to Emily's family, it would never be just a nest. It was a signal. It was the moment everything changed. Nature had done what humans couldn't. It gave Emily back. 1 year to the day after Emily vanished, her parents returned to the cliff. This time, they brought only 2 things, a candle and her boots. They placed the boots gently at the trail marker, the same one she'd left outside her tent, perfectly lined up. Then, as the sun began to set behind the peaks, they lit the candle and sat down in the grass. They didn't speak much. They just listened to the wind, to the birds, to the quiet that had once swallowed their daughter. Finally, her mom stood. She looked up toward the cliff, toward the sky where the nest used to be, and she whispered, "You're home now. You're not lost anymore." They left the candle burning. As they walked away, the camera pulled back, showing the vast mountains, the glowing light, and a place where the wild had finally given back what it had taken. Emily Carter had been found, and now everyone could rest.